How would you like for your entire house to fall apart and grounded because you removed one wall or one staircase? This disaster could occur if you're playing with building integrity turned on. In this video, I'm going to explain how building integrity currently works and why I would not recommend playing with it turned on right now. Before we begin, I want to thank the Overseer91, Grey Knight, and Baz channel, and all my other channel members who help make videos like this possible. Let's get started. So let's start off by talking about what building integrity is. So building integrity was added in the Into the Wood update, and before you panic and worry this is going to affect you, I will let you know that I did do some testing. Building integrity is not turned on pre-existing saves, nor is it currently turned on in any survival modes. I did test it in both medium and woe. It was not turned on by default, so it is an optional setting. The only way to actually get this is to go and create yourself a custom game. So you have to do a new game, go to the drop down, hit custom, hit customize, and you're going to see this option right here. It says building integrity. Multi-level buildings will need to follow structural support rules to be able to be built into taller and larger bases. By default, it is turned off. If you turn it on, it will then turn on building integrity. What that means is, basically, is you can't just go building giant castles or giant houses or giant bases anymore because they're not going to be able to support it depending on what you're building out of. So I did go in and test grass, sturdy, weed stem, and mushroom walls to see how much they can actually hold. And while I do like the system and I think it's a stepping stone for future updates, I would currently not recommend using it right now because I think it's going to cause a lot of frustration, because for the average player that doesn't sit there and spend hours testing things like I do, you're just going to end up getting frustrated when you try to build something and find out that your house just isn't going to work with the materials you have. So with that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop over to a custom game mode that I made, or a custom save that I created, where I did a bunch of testing. I'm going to show you exactly how each piece of building material works in terms of how much it can hold. And then I'm going to show you basically how this would affect you building depending on what you're using for your building materials. All right, so this is the custom world where I did all my testing, and let's really quickly take a look at what building integrity entails. So you're probably used to just building, and since I'm in the custom mode, it does have the creative ability, so I can just place the walls without building them. If you're in survival, obviously you're going to place the blueprint. It actually functions the same if you're in a survival mode. So what you're going to see is we do the normal thing. We're going to place our wall here, and we're going to place another wall. So this probably looks normal to you. However, if we go up and try to place a second wall on top of the existing grass wall that's down here, or making it 3 high, it's going to say insufficient sturdiness. That's the building integrity kicking in. What it's doing is it's looking at what you've built out of, so in this case a grass wall, and it's doing some kind of calculation to determine how much weight it can hold. So it cannot hold 2 full walls on top of it. However, it can hold a half, so if I put the half wall up here, it'll be fine. So the grass wall can only hold up 1.5 walls. And we're going to take a look at each of these in terms of how much they can hold vertically and horizontally, but that's what building integrity entails. And it doesn't matter if you're on foundations. I did test that too. You can place it directly on the ground or on foundations. It's not going to matter. I do think that in some point in the future, the foundations might actually give it more sturdiness. But the reason this was added, I believe, is because it'll actually make building a little bit more realistic. I know we're in a fantasy world here in a video game where you're a shrunken kid, but it will make it a little bit more realistic. So let's quickly take a look at each of the different building options in terms of walls and how much weight they can actually hold. Or in this case, I don't know if it's actually weight because weight didn't really factor in. I think it's just how many pieces it can hold. So the grass wall, the standard grass wall here, can hold 1.5 pieces of flooring. And I did test the different floorings. The type of flooring doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's 1.5 weed stem or 1.5 grass stem, or burr wood or the burr floors. It doesn't matter. It's the same amount. It's only basically looking at this structure here, the wall, to calculate what it can actually hold. So in this case, grass can hold 1.5. Sturdy's a little bit stronger. It can hold 1, 2, 3.5. So 3.5, it's a little bit more than double of the grass wall. The weed stem is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.5. So 6.5 floors it can hold up. And then the mushroom's even stronger. It can hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9.5. So obviously what they're doing here, and let me just show you the palisade gate or the palisade fence real quick. Palisade fence can only hold 1.5. It's not really made to be built on. In fact, I'm going to show the vertical testing over there in a second. You actually can't build. So if I try to put a palisade gate or palisade fence, palisade wall here on top of another one, it's going to say unsupported. They can only be 1 high. So these are really not made for building. And I think the only reason they allowed this to be here is maybe because people use this as a outer fence area around their base, and maybe they want to have a walkway around it. So would not recommend building a base out of the palisade floors because it's really, or the palisade walls, because it's not going to really hold much. So I think what the goal is here is to allow the different building pieces to make I think this is a foundation for going forward. I think that's what this is. Right now, like I said, I wouldn't recommend using it just because you're going to see in a second when I build something how quickly something can fall apart. But I think this is foundational for going forward, and I do think they'll make revisions to it and changes to it and balance it a little bit better, because right now it just feels like if it works okay, but then it's a little bit janky, and I think the average player, if they have it turned on, they're going to end up just getting really frustrated. So I also tested them vertically. Like I said, you can't build on top of the palisade wall, so you can't even test that, but you'll see here the grass is exactly the same. So it can either hold 1.5 horizontally or 1.5 vertically. Sturdy is the same here, it's 3.5. The weed stem is 6.5, and the mushroom wall can hold up to 9.5 on top of it. Now, the interesting thing is, if you build it like this, so let's just put one grass wall out here real quick just to show. It can only hold one thing. So if I put a floor here, that's fine. But if I try to put another wall on top of it right now, it's not going to work. So each of these can only hold the 1.5. Now, I guess I could see if maybe, I haven't tried this before. What if I put a half wall up here? So there it goes. It can hold 1.5 total between whether it's vertical, in this case, the half wall, or horizontal here. So what this ends up meaning is if you build a house or you try to build one of the crazy bases, the amazing bases I've seen people build currently in the game, there's no way. Now, actually, there's not no way, but I think you're going to get super frustrated trying to build it. I'm going to talk about this in just a second, so stick around for that and tell you why I built my house like that. But let's really quickly show you what I'm talking about. So, for example, if I build a house here, we're just going to build the house here. So if you build multiple walls next to each other, you're going to end up getting better support. So in this case, oops, didn't mean to put that there. Let's start putting some floors down. So having the walls here is going to allow me to actually build a little bit more. So in this case, it's actually, let's put the side walls up here. And this is where it gets a little bit complicated. So putting the side walls up here adds a little bit more stability. And as you can see, it's basically almost like a trial and error thing. So if imagine placing blueprints here and try to build your house, it's just going to be super difficult if you don't do it the exact way that I think they intend you to do it. So let me tell you how you're supposed to do it, I believe, or I think this is how they intend you to do it. And that is by building from the ground up. So we're just going to delete these walls real quick. So in this case, we have, or the floors. So in this case, we have our foundation down here. You don't need a foundation, but I think what their goal is basically for you to build your walls first. So let's build we're going to build a 3x3 here. And it should be fine because they're going to say they're supporting 0. So we built our 3x3 here. You're going to notice that these say they're supporting 0. The foundations always say they're supporting 0. I've never had a situation where the foundation actually counted as holding something. It's just kind of there. So in this case, what I can do is I can actually fill this in by putting a floor down. And it should let me fill the whole thing in now, I think. If I remember correctly, it'll let me put them all in. And as you can see, now we're fine. So I built the walls first. Now, you're going to see one of these is going to say supporting somewhere, I believe. Maybe not because they're all equally distributed. So in this case, if I delete this wall, nothing should happen. And it did not. However, now if I delete this wall, is nothing going to happen again? Okay, we're fine. At some point, one of these walls is going to say, or all the walls are going to say that they're holding some amount up. And we're still good here. Still good to hold them all. Let's delete one more. We're going to delete them one by one until I actually see. Okay, so now you're going to see supporting 14. So these are all supporting 14. It's showing that it's red. That means if I try to put another floor up here, I don't believe it's going to let me. No, it's going to say insufficient sturdiness. So in this case, I think the way they're trying to make this is so that you are encouraged to build from the ground up in order to have proper stability. So if we build this, we're fine. And it should be okay. Now let's build a staircase up to it so we can get to the second floor. Actually, let's see if I can I build the second floor of the wall? Okay, we should be able to build all the way around. So let's build all the way around. At some point, it's probably going to tell me it's not sturdy enough. Or maybe not. I can't remember exactly. Like I said, this seemed like a super complicated system. I think it would be better if they just color-coded the walls and made them... Okay, so it's already saying insufficient sturdiness. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put a staircase up. And that should add sturdiness to it. You can also put foundations underneath of it. But in this case, I want to do a staircase because I think it's more likely that people are going to use staircases. And hopefully this lines up properly. Sometimes it doesn't. So there it did. That's perfect. And now we're good to go again with the supporting structure. So we should be able to finish doing these walls. And I did test. It doesn't matter if you do windows or doors. It's just looking at a structure count. So in this case, this staircase is now holding 32. It's holding 32 structures. It's supporting everything up here. Now, before I show you the craziness of this and why this is so difficult, let me try to build a roof up here, which most likely is going to end up, I believe this, if I do this right, it should end up failing and not being able to finish building the entire thing. I believe it's going to be one short maybe, or I can't finish the... We're going to put that there, that there, that there. So now we have that. Now let me see if I can put a doorway in. And it says insufficient sturdiness. So as you can see right now, trying to build a 2-story building, just a simple 2-story building made out of grass with a staircase here, I can finish the roof, but now I can't put a door on it. I can't finish the walls up here. Like, I'm not going to be able to put a triangle wall, I don't believe. So let's try to put a triangle wall there. No, I'm not going to be able to put a triangle wall here. It's just not going to let me. I can't place anything in here in terms of building structures. I can place as much furniture as I want. So if we just randomly place the workbench in here, and we can just randomly place a spinning wheel. The furniture or the crafting stations don't appear to count towards anything. So I wouldn't worry about that because I did extensive testing on that. They don't seem to count. It's just basically what it's doing. It's looking at the walls, and then it's looking at how many other walls or floors they're holding up. And in this case, you can see this floor is actually saying it's supporting 30. So these are all good because they're saying supporting 0. But this floor right here says it's holding 30. So what ends up happening, and why I think I would not recommend using this right now, is if you're not careful, you're going to destroy your whole house. So let's say you accidentally placed the stairs and they didn't. So because sometimes when you place stairs, what ends up happening is they won't actually like get rid of the clipping of the wall here and you can't walk through. So let's say I did that and I was like, oh man, I don't want to put the stairs there. Maybe I want to put the stairs over here. And instead of building the stairs over there first, like I normally would, I just go over here and do this. And there goes my whole house. My entire house has just collapsed because I removed a single staircase. I had a 2-story house, and we were removing one staircase, and in this case, if I remove that one floor piece, the entire house collapsed. So this is the main reason I'm saying I would not recommend using it right now. I do like this feature, and I do think they're going to improve on it going forward, but if you build a house, and imagine that was just a small house. So obviously if you build out of sturdy or weed stem or the mushroom, you can build a much bigger house without having to worry about this. But if you're just trying to build a starter house, right now you're probably just going to end up having to do a 1-story house. So I will real quick just throw together a 1-story house, and I will skip through this so you don't have to watch me build the whole thing. So let me fast forward while I build this, and it should work out perfectly fine. So even now trying to build a 1-story house, I can't even finish building the 1-story house using the grass walls because they're just not even strong enough to hold up a simple roof. So all I try to do is build a little bit up here, but because they're holding up the roofs over here, there's just not enough support. So I think the only other solution would be to instead make the floor. I think if you build the floor out of scaffolding, I did mess around with the scaffolding, that will take some of the weight off. I don't know why the foundation doesn't count towards making it sturdier. I really think that should, so hopefully it'll change that in the future. I did test this on a live stream where I was using the scaffolding, and the scaffolding will bear the weight, so you can actually probably finish building this. But as you can see, even with only a 1-story house, you're not even going to be able to fill in all the walls if you want to have a roof on it using the building integrity. And again, like I said, I've said this a bunch of times already. This is the first iteration of it. I'm sure they're going to change it. But the one thing that I found that was interesting is it only seems to apply to walls. So the walls are going to calculate the floors, because if you build a floor, I don't believe the floor... Actually, I've not even checked this. Does the floor matter if I build the floor here and try the wall on top of it? No, it's the same thing. I think it's really just looking at I think it's mainly looking at the walls in terms of holding it up. So, like I said, I wouldn't recommend doing it. And you'll see over here, I built this. I mean, it's kind of a silly looking house, but I just wanted to see if it would work. For some reason, the clover roofs or the roof pieces in general, while they do count against what's being held up by the walls, you can build infinitely with clover roofs. So if I go get a clover roof here, and this is where I think it's like kind of inconsistent, I can just do this and just keep going and going and going and going. And I'm not going to keep going because I'm not going to drag the video out much longer. But you can see over here, I built a sky base here to see how high I could build with it. So for some reason, the building integrity doesn't count on the roofs. Apparently the clovers are made out of titanium or some type of special metal that is not native to the earth. And they can just be held up infinitely, so there's no building integrity in terms of the roof pieces. So you could build a crazy fancy house out of roofs. It's just going to look probably kind of strange because they're only either on a 45-degree angle or they're flat, but you could theoretically build out of that. But I don't know. It's just kind of weird here. Like this works. So you can still build sky base. You could build a sky base out of this or something. But once you start putting down, if you start putting down grass floors up here, like let me run up here real quick. I'm going to put down grass floors just for a second. They should start counting against it, I believe. If not, that's going to be even more interesting. Most likely this is going to say, oh, maybe it can just hold them up infinitely. Huh. So the roof pieces are special. But we can't place any walls here. So I guess you could build a sky base out of this. And look at that flock. Look at that. Bees just flying across in unison. I guess you could build up like this and then build whatever you want. You just won't be able to have walls on it. So it'll be kind of like an open area building or something like that. But anyway, that's why I would recommend not using the building integrity. I do think it's being put in place for future content, and I think it'll be necessary. I'm not sure if they're ever going to make it be fully enforced. I do like the concept. This concept is in other games, and it works really well. And like I said, first iteration here, so they're probably going to change it up over time. But anyway, that's my thoughts on building integrity. Let me know what you think about them down in the comments below. Let me know if you're going to try it out, and if you do and can build some kind of crazy base with it, be sure to share it over my Discord. There's a link for that down in the description below. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching so much. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the like button, and consider subscribing for more grounded videos just like this. Thank you for watching again, and I'll see you in the next video.